Hi guys, Veko here. So today the fifth game of the World Championship match has been played, and it was of course another very boring one. Okay, seriously now, this was extremely interesting and extremely fighting game that once again somehow fizzled out to a draw, which just proves how wonderful and how fantastic these two players are, how well prepared they are, and how difficult it is to score a victory despite playing sharp and ambitious opening lines. But okay, let's take a look at what happened here in the game. So Caruana played d4 just as in previous two games, and after c5, the c7 once again, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5. He repeated the Rossolimo variation, g6 by Magnus Carlsen, castling. So this is the first surprise because Caruana doesn't take on c6 immediately. Bishop g7, and now rook e1. Once again, Caruana doesn't take here, which would transpose into the first two games, but plays another variation. And here Magnus plays e5. Knight f6 is a more common move, or it's played more often, but then again after e5, knight d5, knight c3, knight c7, bishop takes, d takes. This is on completely another opening line, and probably also one for which Caruana was prepared. So okay, Magnus chose e5, inhibiting the e5 advance himself, but here Caruana unleashed a very brave move, very daring move. He unleashed b4 here. And okay, b4 advance is typical idea in various Sicilians. It's sort of a wing gambit, and the idea is to how is it called? Deflect the black c pawn from the d4 square, so you can then advance d4 and put pressure in the center. But to tell you the truth, it is slightly uncommon to play this move with the knight on c6, because knight is obviously also attacking b4 square, and it is not attacked once but twice. But okay, still, this is not a new move. It has been actually played by none other than Grishuk in 2017 in game against BlackElo in Paris Rapid tournament. Okay, so it was a rapid game, but still. So Grishuk took with c pawn, and then after a3 played b3, not wanting to open additional lines. And okay, after some adventures he won that game, but once again it was a rapid game. So Magnus decided to take with a knight, which is also possible, and this is bishop b2 here, now hitting the e5 pawn. That's kind of the point of white's play. And of course black can't defend with the d6 pawn because it's pinned by the bishop, and if he tries to defend the pawn with f6, there is this amazing resource d4, and if white takes with the c pawn, you'll get c3, and then after d takes c3, let's say knight takes c3, it's very difficult for black to develop, because after knight e7 you have bishop c4, and despite two pawns minus, white has excellent compensation for the pawn. And yeah, this he'll play something like queen b3, rook here, or rook c1, other rook on d1, and he'll have pressure on central lines, and the black has difficult time developing his pieces. He'll never castle, and he can't castle queenside. So yeah, this is not an option. Okay, he can take with the e pawn, but then I think c3 once again, d takes c3, and once again knight takes c3 with the similar idea of bishop c4. It doesn't improve black's position that much. So okay, you can't really hold to this pawn, and Magnus plays a6. And it was curious because Magnus was not playing instantly. He was playing rather fast, but not instantly, and Caruana was just blitzing all his moves. And it seems to me that Caruana was, of course, obviously one prepared, but that Magnus also looked at this line. He just couldn't remember all the details immediately. I think he probably didn't revisit it before the game, but he had it all in his mind somehow. And the subsequent course of the game will show he was prepared well. Okay, so a6 and here a3. Magnus actually took some time here, which was kind of surprising because you kind of expect a3 after a6, because else white will be just worse and he will give up pawn for nothing. So this is a3 is the only way to justify white's play. And here there are several options. It has to be said that the obvious one of knight c2 doesn't quite work, because after queen takes, a take b, and now knight takes e5, there is this terrible threat of knight c6. and bishop takes g7, say after some random move b6 or anything, knight c6, you will just win, because when you take the knight, bishop g7 is a horrible threat. And here black probably has to play something like king f8, but now obviously he's worse, quite simply. And of course, if you go back, then white takes, d takes, and knight takes e5, and white is excellent here. Okay, so a takes b5. I mean, not the only move, but the only logical move. A takes b4, rook takes e1, bishop takes e1, now d6, defending these two pawns. B takes c5, and now Magnus played excellent move, knight e7. If you take on c5, you're just worse. He takes with the bishop, you take with the bishop, he takes with the knight, and these pawns are weak, you haven't quite finished your development, and yeah, white is just very happy here. So knight e7 was played by Magnus, and the point is that after c takes d6, queen takes d6, d4, you don't probably have much. Let's say e takes d4, bishop takes d4, and now either castling or even taking on d4 and you're fine. Let's say castling, takes, and yeah, this endgame should be defensible for black. So okay, there was another option mentioned by Peter Svidler. There is this knight a3, which is interesting, but here simply d takes c5, knight takes e5, b4, knight a c4, and castling. And this is kind of similar to the previous line, but here black has castled and dark square bishop remain for the moment, and he should be quite satisfied here. He is not worse here, and the engine agrees. Although obviously if you play b4 here, then knight c4 is pretty unpleasant. So yeah, queen e2 also played instantly by Caruana. He was still in his preparation. b4, the only move, trying to get away to save the pawn. And here now queen c4 was played. Queen b5 check, knight c6. It is very instructive, because if here white plays d4, then after e takes d4, bishop takes d4, and now castling, black is fine. And the point of the whole line is that bishop, the drawback of queen b5, sorry, is that if knight d4, black can simply castle, and you don't have time to take on c6, because after this you're losing, because your queen is hit and your bishop on a1 is hit. And we'll actually see that this undefended bishop was a source of black's counterplay later in the game. So Caruana played queen c4, trying to avoid this variation, but here black has additional resources, and Magnus played queen a5, attacking this bishop and trying to take on c5, also defending the b4 pawn. So this is a multi-purpose move. And white took on d6. Actually, d4 was considered by some commentators that it might be dangerous, and of course, indeed, if black takes the piece, then c takes d6, and yeah, this white has excellent compensation for the piece. So let's say something like knight c6, d5, and you already need to think of a way to save the game, to be completely honest. But the problem is here that after simple d takes c5, white is stuck, because now bishop is indeed hanging, and it is not clear what you play. If you play queen c5, then he can indeed take, and you don't have a pawn on d6, and yeah, black is probably just winning here. So I don't think d4 is something that should worry. It should worry black. So c takes d6, bishop e6, which is important to gain a tempo for development, because after knight c6, d4 is unpleasant. Indeed, because after you take, then indeed d5, and this is the same position we examined earlier. And yeah, after let's say knight a7, queen b4, white has excellent, tremendous compensation for the piece. This c5 pawn will roll, his pieces are undeveloped, b7 will be weak, and yeah, this is not something black wants. So bishop e6, important move, and once again indicating the strength of these players, because this both sides have to be extremely precise here, and both are risking much, both white and black, and they just kept playing excellent moves. Queen c7, once again, basically the only move, because after, let's say, I don't know, queen d3, knight e6, bishop e2, there is castling, and black stands excellently. There are some queen a2 ideas. I actually wasn't sure what is after queen e2, but bishop e5 is the resource that somehow works, because there will be queen b5 check in the end. Let's say bishop takes, knight takes, queen b5, and you get the piece back. Oh, sorry, you don't. Knight c6. Okay, queen b7, and you get. Okay, I haven't actually checked this line before the video, but yeah, this here after queen takes c2, d4, white has definite compensation. So yeah, but okay, castling, just simply castling here, and black is fine. So queen c7, forcing the exchange of queens, queen takes c7, d takes c7, and now knight c6. And although white has an extra pawn, it is falling soon. Black will pick up this soldier on c7, and actually white also has to be careful. Of course, if you play knight king d7, white just takes the pawn and you're losing. Okay, so knight c6, taking d4 under control and defending the pawn. And now there were lots of possibilities for white. Caruana played c3. There was something to be said about d4, but here after e takes d4, rook d1, d3, bishop takes g7, d takes c2, rook c1, takes on b1, takes on b1, and rook g8, things are more or less equal. So d1 first is the more precise move order, because now you have to play king d7 and you get in d4 now. And here, well, you need to be a bit creative, because okay, e takes d4 is probably defensible, but you really don't want to enter this endgame, where you're a pawn down and you may lose. Although it is probably defensible, but why suffer? But you need to find b3, which is, you know, very sexy move, very energetic response. And obviously, if you push d5, black will take on c2. So let's say after knight takes, king takes, and then okay, c takes b3, bishop takes b3. The material is equal, and black is most probably fine here. Let's say after rook c1, you take on e5, and okay. This is just probably going to end in a draw. So yeah, Caruana chose c3 in the end, trying to undermine this pawn, and Carlsen played energetically, Carlsen played excellently, he played king d7. Of course, if you take, you just activate the pieces, give them some squares, and you don't really want to do that. And if you pass, you get in d4 and you're losing more or less, because this pawn advances, and yeah, you don't have time to collect this pawn, and there's, you know, all sorts of threats here. So yeah, king d7 immediately, just getting to the c7 pawn, and yeah, basically giving up this pawn. So c takes b4, rook a8. Of course, you can't really take here, because then he takes here, so that's important. So this was black's last move was genuine pawn sacrifice. Rook a8, attacking the bishop on a1, bishop c3. If he plays knight c3, then you can take on b4, and if rook b1, you can simply take, because you can't take here since you're losing. So that's not good for white. So he has to play bishop c3, defending the b4 pawn. King takes c7, and now d3 was played by Caruana, which is perhaps not the most precise. And knight g5 was interesting. But I'm not even sure if you give up this bishop, how much of a problem is that. But okay, so there were other moves. Caruana played d3, which is somewhat timid, and here Magnus played king b6. So all the engines and everybody, even the commentators on Chess24, were wanted to play b5, but here things are not so clear. You are fixing this pawn, but you have some issues, because let's say after king f1, f6 trying to get in bishop f8, then you get d4, and okay, bishop c4, king g1, takes, now you have problem with the f6 pawn. And even if you swap the f6 pawn for the b4 pawn, things are probably going to end in a draw. Let's say bishop here, bishop c3, rook a4, bishop takes, rook c1, and king d7. Okay, black, it was probably better for black, because he has some chances with this b pawn and with his bishops, but objectively speaking, white should be able to defend. He is a pawn up still, and yeah, if the worst comes to worst, he can also give up one piece for this pawn, and probably will be able to exchange the pawns, although this is now, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. Okay, so king b6, trying to pick up this pawn, trying to get the king into action. Bishop d2, an excellent move, wanting to go for bishop e3. And now rook d8, attacking the d3 pawn. If you go king b5, then you get knight c3, and you can't really take here because knight d5 is coming. Right? Although maybe that's not so terrible. But okay, obviously that's not something you want as well in this position. You suddenly have to switch to defense, and yeah, you're activating the pieces. Even here there are maybe better moves because the king is still under battery of this bishop. So yeah, you don't really want to do that. So rook d8, eyeing this d3 pawn. Bishop e3 check. Now king b5 is an option because the bishop is not eyeing this diagonal. Knight c3 check nevertheless. King b4, knight d5 check, bishop d5, e d5, rook d5, and now rook b1 check, securing this pawn behind the black king. King c3 eyeing the d3 pawn. Rook takes b7, and now we are already close to draw. Knight d8, attacking the rook and defending this pawn. Rook c7 check, king takes d3, and now king f1. And here, although black is a pawn up, it's incredibly hard to make progress because his king is, even though it looks active, it is in some danger. Because if you play e4, knight e1 suddenly wins the game by checkmate, which is extraordinary, right? And if you play something like f5, you lose the bishop, so you don't really have like a move to improve. So Carlsen played h5, but after h3 he went back with king e4, because if you, I know it's just one illustrative variation I found when I clicked around. So let's say if you just wait with bishop f6, g4 takes, and then you go back with the bishop, suddenly knight e1 and king e4 and king e2, and suddenly there is a threat of f3, and you have to move the rook somewhere, let's say to b5, and then you get f3 check, king d5 and rook d7 check, and you lose this rook knight on d8. So Carlsen probably realized or sensed the danger or saw these variations, and he played king e4, and after knight g5, king f5, he lost the f7 pawn, and after exchange of the knights and exchange of one pair of pawns, okay, not actually the players agreed here, but after h takes, and king e6, obviously you can't take on g4 because you lose the piece, but after king e6, this is dead drawn position, and yeah, there was nothing left to play for. So yeah, this was another, probably the most exciting battle since game 1. Caruana really showed the guts and really went for it here, but yeah, Magnus displayed excellent preparation, and he essentially diffused Caruana's back pieces. How much of it was bluffing, how much of it he saw at the board, how much of it he actually had at home, it is not known. But yeah, one thing is certain, this is like the closest and most tense match in, as far as I follow chess, so that's basically last 10 years, and yeah, this is the highest level of championship match we have seen, if we disregard the first game where nerves played like a crucial part. And yeah, so tomorrow Magnus has one white, and after another rest day he will have another white, and yeah, it's exciting to watch what is going to happen in the future. And yeah, guys, thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, feel free to watch 2 of my previous videos. Okay, once again I'm missing, sorry. Okay, yeah, like this. Okay, so 2 of my 2 videos will be available up there, and until next time, see ya!